David Livingston and the lights. There you go.
Thank you.
David Livingston and the lights. All right. So in this world of human experience, what does it take to be big for God? I mean, like mind-blowing, knock your socks off your feet. Thought it could never happen big for God. Because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And we're deepening into this concept each and every time we meet. And hopefully taking these concepts and using them in life each and every day. How can I be big for God, to express my God self? So, my friends, it takes a great willingness to dare greatly. To dare greatly to do things that others might not understand. Things that people might be uncomfortable with, even ourselves. Things that people might criticize us for. Might find fault with. Might think we are really, really stupid and dumb for doing. Or heaven forbid, think that we are wrong for doing it. And yet, we dare to do them anyway. We dare to dare greatly means to be willing, to be scared, but dare to do it anyway. Not know how, but dare to try anyway. Feel self-conscious, but dare to show up anyway. Not have a clue of the outcome, but dare to take a risk anyway. Feel naked, but dare to be authentic and real anyway. That is stepping out and being big for God, which means expressing our God nature. To be big for God in this human experience, we must dare greatly in so many different ways. Now, if we all lived alone in caves, maybe on an island somewhere, and there was no one there but ourselves, we'd be separate and apart from everyone else. It would just be us. It might be easier to be great for God. And while that might sound a bit appealing, and at times I know it does, I just want to live in that place, but be careful what you wish for, because I manifested it. But anyway, it's not an island, because I'm here with you. I'm here with you. So, but what would that really be like if we were all alone on an island? We could really express our authentic selves, but what would that be like really? How could we share our gifts? Because who would we share them with? There's no one there to receive. Remember, you have to give and receive. So you kind of need both. And how would you live with passion and purpose? If our only job is to gather up coconuts and to stay away out of harm of the elements, because that would be it. We'd be all alone. So how can we make a difference for good in the world if it is a world of just one person? We know it's a world of oneness, but just one. Not to mention, who would we talk to? Who would we dance with? Who would we laugh with? Who would we hug? Who would we hug? Who would we share our dreams with, celebrate life with? So it would be pretty lonely living on that island of one, and I'm quite sure that there are moments in life that it sounds appealing, but in reality, it would not be expressing the greatness, the gifts, the love, the joy, who we are individually. So we have a bit of a paradox, and I always love paradoxes. So we really need to be around other people so we can be big for God. And yet, our fear of their opinions, our fear of looking foolish, our fear of being wrong, our fear of being judged, our fear of being hurt, the list could go on and on and on, and it stops us. And it keeps us feeling small. It keeps us feeling small. And that's a conundrum, isn't it? Conundrum, I love it. So there are some powerful words about this idea that will set the tone for this whole month, because this whole month is all about daring to live great. And you might recognize these words as I read them, and just for a hint, it's not Ernest Holmes, but see if you know. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly? So these words, if you recognize them, were spoken by Theodore Roosevelt in a speech that he made in Paris on April 13, 1910. And they still apply today. They still apply today. And it was quite a famous speech that he made. But this month, we are talking about daring greatly. Daring greatly to be big for God. Holmes does write in Science of Mind, we all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible into the invisible. Through the visible into the invisible. And that is what the book does. It is founded on, this book that we're basing the talks on is founded by Brené Brown. And we'll have them for sale next week. So I've ordered them. I'm waiting for them to come in. Brené Brown, yes. If there's a word, I can do it. This month we're going to explore her research, walk hand in hand with spiritual wisdom, as we take a deep dive into the quality of human existence that can open our divine greatness. Because we do know that within each of us, there is a divine greatness. There truly is. It can either open us up from it, or it can close us off. One or the other. It's our choice. And that quality, the quality that we're going to talk about this morning, is to be vulnerable. So this morning we'll dip our toes into the ocean or the waters of vulnerability by exploring a way of living that Brown defines in her book as wholehearted living. Wholehearted living. And I look at it as another way of saying being big for God. To be big for God. So here's how she defines wholehearted living. Wholehearted means cultivating, which is a very important word in today's talk, cultivating the courage, compassion, and connection to be able to live in a place where we can say, and this is what she writes, I may be imperfect in what I do, and sometimes I'm afraid, and sometimes I play small, and sometimes I mess up a little, and in big ways. But that doesn't change the truth that I am also worthy of love and belonging and connection, and that I am also absolutely capable of being gigantically big for God and accomplishing amazing good in the world. And that is exactly what I am going to do, she writes, because that's what I came here to do. That is wholehearted living. As best we can, taking the step into that which we are pulled or drawn into. Dipping our toes in the ocean of limitless possibilities. So wholehearted living means cultivating So I'm going to repeat this again. Cultivating the compassion, the courage, and the connection to be able to live in a place, and I want to repeat that again, where I may be imperfect in what I do, and sometimes I'm afraid, and sometimes I play small, and sometimes I mess up a little, and in big ways. But that doesn't change the truth that I am also worthy of love and belonging and connection, and that I am also absolutely capable of being gigantically big for God and accomplishing amazing good in the world, and that is exactly what I am going to do, because that's what I came here to do. So according to Brown's research, the willingness to be vulnerable emerges as the single clearest value shared by all of men and women, whom she identified as wholehearted. Those individuals attribute everything from their professional success to their meaningful marriages to their proud parenting to whatever it is, to their ability to be vulnerable, to be open. And Brown writes this: being willing to be vulnerable is the catalyst for experiencing courage, compassion, and connection, and is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human experiences. Feel good? Examples of being vulnerable, just a couple. By doing something that's like out of the ordinary. You might be a little uncomfortable with it. Having a conversation where you really speak your truth, maybe for the first time. Revealing to someone else something very personal about you, about your true self, about who you really are. So have you ever been vulnerable and woke up with a vulnerability? Wait a minute. Vulnerability. Yes. Hangover. Have you ever woke up with a hangover? That doesn't involve any other stuff. You know the feelings when you wake up, vulnerability. You know that when you wake up and you're feeling good, and then you remember you were vulnerable, and you pull the covers over your head and say, oh my God, what did I do? That's being vulnerable. Or you just want to hide under those covers. But maybe we had the experience where we were in that place of being vulnerable, which is being authentic. Our authentic self, open and willing and risk-taking. What looks like a risk is stepping out. It's stepping out in that faith. And absolutely it's a risk. There's no doubt about it. It feels like a risk to that within us that is so comfortable with a certain way of being and doing. So if that happens to you, think about the statement from Mark Twain that I really love this. Mark Twain wrote, "We should be careful to get out of an experience only the wisdom that is in it and stop there. Lest we be like the cat that sits down on the hot stove lid. She will never sit down on that hot stove lid again. And that is well. Also, though, she will never sit down on the cold lid either." Be willing to be vulnerable is the price of the entrance. The ticket to the arena of playing it big for God. Yes, that's the price that you pay, stepping out of your comfort zone. According to Brown, people who live from the most wholehearted places have some things in common. In fact, Brown's research suggests that there are 10 things that those who live wholeheartedly work to cultivate. See, we're into that word of cultivating. They work to let go of also. And every single one of them takes that risk of being vulnerable. So I'm going to list a few and make a couple of comments on some of them. And that this whole month, we're going to dive deeper into understanding daring to live greatly, being bigger, showing up bigger for God. All right, number one, they cultivate authenticity and let go of what people think. And that reminds me of a Terry Cole Whitaker book. If you don't know who she is, she's a fabulous speaker. She wrote a book called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. And I think that really, that is like one of the greatest titles of any book. What you think of me is none of my business. So the second, cultivate self-compassion and let go of perfectionism. If you happen to be in that realm of everything has to be a certain way. 3, they cultivate a resilient spirit and let go of numbing and powerlessness. 4, they cultivate gratitude and joy and let go of scarcity thinking and fear of living, fear of being in the dark. Marianne Williamson once said, we must dare the dark, and stare it down. Dare the dark and stare it down. Stand there with your light in the middle of what feels like the dark night of a soul, and just know that there is a powerful good that is operating in and through and as you. Right here, right now, each moment. And Brown wrote, only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. We are powerful beings. We truly are, but we forget sometimes. We go absent-minded. 5, they cultivate intuition and trusting faith and let go of the need for certainty. Wow. Let go of the need for certainty? What can we be certain of? We cannot be certain. I don't care about those other things. There is nothing that we can truly be certain about. We take the divine guidance and the risk of daring to be great in our own ways. And it doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. It could be the smallest thing of just speaking your word of truth instead of holding it back all of the time. That's part of it. They cultivate creativity and let go of competition. You ever notice competition doesn't feel good? For me, it doesn't. There's always a winner and there's always a loser. They let go of the creative. Holmes talks about that. They cultivate play and rest and let go. This is really good. They let go of a status symbol of exhaustion and productivity to define their self-worth. Well, I'm exhausted because I had so many meetings to do and so many important bits. It's become a cultural thing now. So they let go of that and take care of self, too. They cultivate calm and stillness and let go of anxiety as a lifestyle. 9, they cultivate meaningful work and let go of self-doubt and supposed to and can't do. And the last one, they cultivate laughter, song and dance, letting go of being cool and in control. While our master teachers might not have taught, they didn't really teach specifically the power of being vulnerable. Each of them was in their own individualized way, because they all dared to live greatly. We're talking about Moses was vulnerable. Jesus, Gandhi was vulnerable. Martin Luther King was vulnerable. Mother Teresa was vulnerable. Each of them stepped out in their own individualized way and trusted. They trusted the Father within. They trusted that there was a universal intelligence to take care of them and would love them unconditionally, each and every one of them. And so today, we have dipped our toes into that sea of vulnerability, which I'm never going to use that word again. I'll have to change it next week, as the key for being big for God. Okay? So it's being our authentic self, being big enough for God. And this morning, we've included in your bulletin a handout. So it's in there, so you can have it to take home what these 10 ways of cultivating your greatness. But for now, let's have a really short experience. Something I don't usually do, but. So I want you all to stand up, but don't speak. Can you do that? No. Okay, put your hands together and like an namaste. Okay, and turn to a person next to you, preferably someone you don't know too well, and stare at them for a few seconds where it's almost uncomfortable. Just a little bit longer than usual, without speaking. No speaking. And turn to someone else. Be seated. So I want you to take a deep breath. Take a breath in. And I'm going to read to you these 10 ideas to make this whole moving into our greatness a spiritual practice. Don't take them all on. Just think, and you have this list, so you don't even have to think about it. You just choose the one that rings true for you. And make one or two of them something that you can hold on to and cultivate. Make your intention for the year. Okay? So think about them and read them. Cultivate authenticity and let go of what people think. Cultivate self-compassion and let go of perfectionism. You can make them into an affirmation. I cultivate a resilient spirit and let go of numbing and powerlessness. I cultivate gratitude and joy and let go of scarcity thinking and fear of the dark. I cultivate intuition and trusting faith and let go of the need for certainty. I cultivate creativity and let go of comparison. I cultivate play and rest and let go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity of self-worth. I cultivate calm and stillness and let go of anxiety as a lifestyle. I cultivate meaningful work and let go of self-doubt and supposed to or can't do. I cultivate laughter, song, and dance, letting go of being cool and always in control. If you don't have a bulletin, make sure you get one with the handouts in it, because I invite you to choose one or two of those ideas that you can cultivate into your life so that you can start stepping out and daring to be great. Great for God. So